Primero quería comenzar preguntándole sobre el documental Seaspiracy, que recientemente fue estrenado en Netflix, donde se habla sobre la pesca ilegal, donde también se imponen algunas ideas un poco raras con respecto a la pesca, en donde también de alguna forma se sataniza a la pesca. Quería preguntarle a modo general cuál es su opinión sobre este documental.
Well, it wasn't a documentary. It was a propaganda piece for vegan activists. Um, and they recruited the two or three people who are well known to want to stop all global fishing as their experts. um, and I'm fond of saying it contained more lies than a Donald Trump press conference. That it is just so full of untruths and distortions that it was remarkable.
¿A quién favorece entonces este documental o a quién pretende favorecer este documental?
Well, I think the intention of this film was to demonize fishing. I mean, it was very clearly selected to make it sound like fishing was the biggest threat to the oceans, and to very selectively choose and present information on where there are admittedly problems in fishing. So there's no question that there are in some places problems with overfishing, in some places problems with human rights abuses. But it in no sense presented a balanced view on how common these were, or whether those problems had been fixed. I mean, just to start with the basics, it in no way presented the fact that in much of the world, in those places where fisheries are being managed, fish stocks are increasing. They're not decreasing. And the image it presented was the oceans being emptied of fish. It started with the marine mammals. And again, it gave you the impression that the oceans are being emptied of whales. In fact, whales are increasing in abundance in almost every population in the world.
Efectivamente, estoy de acuerdo con usted, Rey, en el tema del argumento del documental. Empieza exponiendo una problemática que tiene que ver con el cuidado del medio ambiente, el plástico, y después inmediatamente pasa a satanizar, como ya lo decía, el tema de la pesca. Pero hay una parte en específico del documental en donde habla de sostenibilidad, y él rechaza el término de sostenibilidad porque lo asocia con la matanza de delfines o de ballenas. Él no entiende este proceso. Él incluso le pregunta a un funcionario sobre la sostenibilidad. Al explicárselo no lo entiende y rechaza este término. ¿Me puede decir si de alguna forma la sostenibilidad es o no una cortina de humo para avalar la pesca ilegal, como él lo declaró en el documental?
Well, the documentary leaves you with the impression given by Sylvia Earle that there is no such thing as sustainable fishing. And that is not a view held by 99% of the scientists who study the ocean, that fisheries have been sustainable in many places in the world for thousands of years. And many, many fisheries are, by all scientific standards, being sustainably managed now. And at the simplest definition, it simply means we can continue to take the human benefits we get from fishing, that is food production, and continue those indefinitely. And there is no question that a significant portion of the world's fisheries are managed in that way. The FAO estimates it as a minimum of 70% of world fisheries are managed, currently managed in that way. I would think it would actually be a little bit higher. And then where they and almost many people get confused is they confuse being not sustainable with there being an environmental impact of fishing. And there is no question that fishing has environmental impacts. But all food production has environmental impacts. And for someone like Sylvia Earle to say no fisheries are sustainable, what she's really saying is you can't take fish from the oceans without changing the oceans. And that's true, but you don't change them very much when a fishery is well managed.
Y mi última pregunta por ahora, antes de darle paso al ingeniero, es, en el documental se habló incluso ya en la parte final sobre dejar de comer pescados, porque si mientras seguíamos comiendo los pescados realmente podría generarse un impacto medioambiental terrible. Hablaba de la contaminación, supuesta contaminación que se generaba por parte de los buques pesqueros, etcétera. ¿Qué pasaría, Rey, si mañana las personas deciden dejar de comer pescados? ¿Qué pasa con no solo el medio ambiente, sino con los trabajadores, sino con la industria pesquera? ¿Qué podría pasar si tomamos esta decisión?
That's a really good question, and I think the important question that they certainly never answered. And it really falls into two groups of people. There's those, the wealthier people of the world who have the alternative to buy other foods. Okay, so most of the richer countries in the world, that's probably the case. And what we would do is simply switch to eating more beef, chicken, and pork, and replace, and that would come at a much higher environmental cost than taking fish from the ocean. So we have done that calculation, and it would you would have to grow more crops, right? You have to, and in order to do that, and you would need an area roughly the size of the Amazonian rainforest. So, and the environmental cost of all the new land you would need to increase the food production is much higher than the environmental cost of fishing in the ocean. Now, the other group of people is the poor people of the world who don't have a choice. That if they don't eat the fish they catch, they're going to be less food secure, they're going to be more poorly nourished, and it would probably lead to many deaths in the world, not to mention all the people who would be out of work. You know, it's these people like Sylvia Earle are totally irresponsible. I was at a meeting with her with some people from Pacific Islands who depend upon tuna fishing for their national income, and she said, oh, and their diet. She said, oh, you should stop eating fish and just eat more coconuts. I mean, she has no concept of how people live and how important fisheries are to people around the world.
Gracias, Alondra. Sí, Rey, gracias por estar aquí en el programa Sur Sostenible. Sí, aquí hecho en Ecuador, justamente para tratar estos temas que están relacionados con el océano, ¿no? Es un desafío para todos quienes trabajan en el océano, ya sea la pesca, la acuacultura y diferentes actividades, pues conocer a fondo cómo se puede aprovechar los recursos y al mismo tiempo hacerlos, también mantenerlos, el ecosistema funcionando, ¿no? O las poblaciones que se aprovechan en estados sostenibles. El grado de dificultad para lograr esto, para estructurar una actividad sostenible es bastante grande, mucho más grande, en mi opinión, que que cualquier otra actividad productiva. En el océano, como tú conoces bien, no tenemos límites, las especies altamente migratorias o el ecosistema, eso es algo muy complejo de analizar o estimar adecuadamente. Tú eres un científico reconocido a nivel mundial por todos los estudios que justamente haces para medir esto y buscar soluciones a los problemas de impacto de las actividades de la pesca o la acuacultura. Y en base a eso, pues se tiene hoy en día todo un esquema que también fue cuestionado por este programa, por Seaspiracy, respecto a las certificaciones, a los sellos que garantizan la sostenibilidad en la pesca y la acuacultura en base a estándares científicos. ¿Cuál es tu opinión respecto a estos programas de certificación de pesca y acuacultura que hoy existen en el mundo? ¿Son una garantía para el consumidor final del producto de la pesca o la acuacultura para poder alimentarse de un producto con toda confianza que venga de una fuente realmente sostenible?
As a general rule, I would say yes, um, that I don't know the aquaculture certification system very well, but I do know the various labeling systems for capture fisheries. The Marine Stewardship Council is probably the best known. In the United States, we have an NGO, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, that has a list. And what they will do is they'll tell you what the best managed fisheries of the world are. And there's no question that the fisheries that are MSC certified or Monterey Bay listed as a best choice or a good alternative, those are well-managed fisheries that are sustainable in the sense that you can continue, the current practice can be continued as long as the oceans aren't turned into soup by global warming or ocean acidification. But there are lots of fisheries that can be sustained forever that don't meet their criteria, because their criteria and most NGO criteria are very, very stringent about the environmental impacts of fishing. So if you have too much bycatch, they say that it's not sustainable. That doesn't mean you can't continue to produce the fish that we're eating, but they're saying, no, but there's too much bycatch to really label that as a sustainable fishery. Again, what they're not doing is saying, what's the alternative? Is the alternative way of producing food producing less environmental impact? So I think lots of fisheries that don't get certified would meet the standard, would certainly be sustainable in that the human benefits can continue out into the future.
Así es. Y otro tema que él aborda o trata de presentarlo como una parte fundamental para decir que no puede haber una pesca sostenible son los casos de pesca ilegal. Yo creo que no se puede negar que toda actividad humana tiene alguna ilegalidad cuando algún actor de esa cadena de producción comete algo fuera de las reglas. Pero en el caso de la pesca, pues hay un combate mundial sobre la pesca ilegal no regulada y no reglamentada. ¿Tú piensas que este tema de la pesca ilegal es incontrolable realmente? ¿Cuál es tu experiencia de lo que tú conoces también en el manejo de las pesquerías a nivel mundial?
Well, I think all of the experts who've looked at IUU fishing agree that it is declining and that there are many measures in place that are reducing it. I mean, it is fundamentally not a threat to global food production. It is basically taking fish that belong to one group and being taken them by in some cases criminal elements, but it's not. I do not see it as one of the most pressing issues in world fisheries management, because in many countries it's very, very small, and FAO and other international organizations are making good progress at reducing it. I mean, it is a problem. It's not really a problem in much of the Americas. It tends to be more a problem of high seas and West Africa and maybe to some extent Southeast Asia. But it's certainly not a problem in Europe. So it's a problem, but very, very little of the food that certainly the people who view Seaspiracy, who will dominantly be from richer countries, very little of their food would be considered IUU.
Así es, bueno, y ese era quizás el mensaje principal del programa. Como dijo Alondra, justamente lo que buscan es desincentivar el consumo de pescado y productos del mar. ¿Qué piensas tú, Ray, respecto también a la ciencia? Tú eres experto científico. ¿Qué es lo que tú recomendarías a los gobiernos y al sector privado, industrial y artesanal para que sigan trabajando y sigan profundizando sus trabajos para lograr esas metas de sostenibilidad que todas las pesquerías, sin lugar a dudas, deberían tener?
Well, it's been very clear over the last 30 or 40 years that the standards of fishing have increased a lot. Fewer stocks are being fished too hard. That is what we call subject to overfishing. We've found ways to avoid bycatch, which is probably the most serious concern about the environmental impacts of fishing. We've found ways to protect sensitive benthic habitats from fishing gear that impact them. So we're making a lot of progress, and that progress has come by a partnership between industry, science, and governments. And we simply need more of that, and we need to continue with it and bring that kind of management that I would say right now covers roughly half of the world's fish catch is, I would describe as generally well managed, and increase the parts of the world that don't have that, which is typically the poorer countries, and increase their capacity to do good fisheries management.
Así es, Ray. Yo también coincido contigo plenamente que lo que se debe fortalecer, sobre todo en los países pobres y en vía de desarrollo, es fortalecer la investigación científica. Ray, hay una pregunta que creo que es clave porque una de las imágenes que más quizás vendió en este documental es la matanza de ciertos mamíferos marinos. Pero también he tratado de explicar a algunas personas que no conocen sobre las culturas o el consumo de productos del mar, que no necesariamente son peces, sino también a veces mamíferos marinos, como el caso de Faroe, como Noruega, como Japón y otros países del norte que se han alimentado durante muchos años de estas especies de mamíferos, también es parte de su alimentación. ¿Qué piensas tú sobre esta pesquería que se da en estos países del norte, sobre todo de mamíferos marinos? ¿Es incontrolable? ¿Se tiene que acabar? ¿Tenemos que eliminar ese tipo de pesca o combatir esa pesca, así sea parte de la cultura de alimentación de esos países?
Well, the science is very clear that these are very sustainable fisheries. Norway and Iceland in particular have had, and Canada, the native peoples of Canada, the native peoples of the United States have a very long history of marine mammals being an important part of their diet. And there's no question that it's been subject to the most rigorous scientific review, and it is sustainable. So it's really an animal rights issue rather than it's not a science issue. And certainly I have no problem with people who would like to see whaling and any killing of marine mammals stopped, because of they just don't like the idea, and there's a lot of evidence these are very smart animals and have culture, and so you know, I'm very sympathetic to that as an animal rights issue, but it is not a sustainability issue. I thought in the Seaspiracy documentary, there was the interview with the fisherman from the Faroe Islands, and you remember he said, well, you know, we can kill one dolphin and not kill 200 chickens. So are you telling me that a dolphin's life is more important than a chicken's? And I mean, some people would say yes, okay? But it points to this deep misconception among vegans that somehow a vegan diet does not involve killing animals. And again, it just shows the ignorance of those who believe that, because if you've ever worked on a farm, and I've done that, and my son is a farmer, when you harvest a field for corn or wheat or soybeans, you kill hundreds of animals. Now, they're mostly rabbits and mice and things like that. But I know my son has chopped up in his combine baby deer and baby hawks that are caught in the out in the field. And so I think it's very clear that if your concern is you want to kill as few animals as possible, actually a meat-based diet that kills large animals kills fewer animals. Again, you're getting into ethics. It isn't a science question, but certainly it is a science question of, does a vegan diet not kill animals? And the answer to that is certainly no. Lots of animals die to produce a vegan diet.
Solo es que me acordé de otra parte del documental y quería hablar sobre el tema del Dolphin Safe, cuando le preguntaba en este tipo de certificación y la persona le decía que bueno, que no pueden asegurar que realmente el producto sea Dolphin Safe. De alguna forma se demostraba algún tipo, no diré, no es corrupción, pero desentendimiento de que realmente esté sucediendo este tema, de que sea Dolphin Safe estos productos. En estas compañías que dan las certificaciones, ¿también podría haber algo turbio alrededor, o esto es solamente la imagen que le dio este muchacho en el documental?
Well, as in any essentially piece of propaganda film, I am sure that the editors very carefully selected what they presented. So again, this is not something that I am 100% expert on, but my understanding is if you take the place that the dolphin kill in the tuna fishery was the most concern, that is the labeling of tuna safe dolphin, there is now an independent observer on board every vessel. And that observer is reporting if that the vessel engages in all of the practices that are known to eliminate or certainly greatly reduce any impact on dolphins. But I mean, yes, I'm sure it's possible to bribe an observer. So I don't think you can say with 100% guarantee there is no chance that a dolphin died to produce this can of tuna. But again, it's you know, I think the industry and the governments have and the NGOs have gone a long way to you know, to really doing everything that seems to be possible to minimize that.
Sí, coincido también contigo, Ray. Yo creo que esta venta de ciertas especies también no está claro respecto a cómo debemos cuidar el ecosistema. Por ejemplo, ¿cuál es tu opinión? ¿Tenemos que cuidar solo los mamíferos marinos, los tiburones, las rayas, las tortugas, como un elemento fundamental para cuidar el ecosistema, o tenemos que cuidar todo el ecosistema, los atunes, el dorado, que es toda una cadena completa, una dinámica completa de operación que ocurre en el océano, y dejarnos de enfocar a veces solamente, por ejemplo, los tiburones, que a veces piensa la gente que es mucho más importante salvar los tiburones que salvar los atunes, el maji-maji, el pez espada. Es parte de un todo, ¿no? Porque nos han vendido esta idea al público en general, y es parte, obviamente, de esta campaña, de esta propaganda, de que tenemos que cuidar a los tiburones si no se acaban los océanos. ¿Cuál sería tu mensaje para los ciudadanos, justamente para estas personas que necesitan entender cómo debemos cuidar realmente todo el océano para que se mantenga estable, se mantenga sostenible, para que podamos tener para las futuras generaciones alimento, pero también un océano que funcione con una biodiversidad marina muy grande como son los océanos en todas partes del mundo, ¿no?
Well, I think a lot of the concern about particular species, whether it's turtles or sharks or specific marine mammals, or in some cases birds, part of it has to do with the profile they gain by getting put on endangered species lists. Although the rate, the rate of extinction in the ocean is very, very low. So, but it's certainly, those are species of concern. There's no question. But I think where this documentary or I hate to call it a documentary, this propaganda film, and a lot of the coverage of the oceans that focuses on fishing, it is just ignoring what I consider the major threats to the ocean. And the major threats to the ocean, almost certainly climate change is probably the biggest. It threatens every element of the ocean. Ocean acidification, pollution, both at-sea pollution, but primarily from land-based runoff, exotic species. These are all major threats to the ocean that are really unrelated to fishing. And the marine activists simply, I mean, though they're very hard problems, obviously, but they tend to look for solutions that might solve one little fishery problem, like let's say shark finning, rather than stepping back and contributing to a really global effort to protect the oceans in the long term.
Sí, efectivamente, Ray. Yo creo que ese es el camino que debe seguir andando todos los involucrados en el tema de la conservación, del uso sostenible de los recursos marinos. Y yo creo que hay mucho trabajo en ese sentido. ¿Cuál sería tu recomendación para la industria, para los pescadores, para poder contrarrestar de alguna manera esta mala imagen que ha impactado, porque no hay que desconocer que impacta un documental como el que se nos ha presentado en Netflix? ¿Qué debería hacer la industria, los gobiernos y las organizaciones internacionales como FAO, como las OROPS, para poder contrarrestar todo esto de tal manera que el consumidor final tenga claro de que sí hay la posibilidad de tener una pesca y acuacultura sostenible en base a estándares científicos, que son procesos complejos y difíciles de construir, pero que sí es viable hacerlo y demostrarle al consumidor que sí podemos conservar el océano y usarlo responsablemente?
Well, that's I mean, the best thing would be just to ignore this film, but it is getting some some take up on media. A lot of it is pretty critical. The one I found most interesting is the inherent racism in it, where white people are experts Asians are the criminals and Africans are the victims. And the whole fact that they highlight Japanese killing of whales in the Antarctic and don't go to see some nice white fishermen from Norway or Iceland killing whales is it's just classic of that. But I think that the scientific community is rejecting almost all the elements of this. I would really love to see the scientists who appeared in it vilified by the rest of the scientific community. That would be Callum Roberts and Sylvia Earle. Certainly everybody I know in the fish world is trying to do something, but it's just difficult. I mean, I think it'd be really good to get a Netflix movie that presents a balanced picture of the sustainability of fisheries. And I'm actually talking to a filmmaker later this week to just get an idea. What would it cost? I mean, to produce the Seaspiracy had very high production values, so it can't have been very cheap. But I don't know. I'm not a public relations expert, so.
Quizás Alondra nos puede ayudar allí para llevar alguna producción de este tipo, pero sí, definitivamente yo creo que la industria y las organizaciones que sí están involucradas en este tipo de trabajos y todo el esfuerzo durante los últimos 25, 30 años, justamente para buscar la sostenibilidad de la pesca, vale la pena pues que de alguna manera encontremos el camino. Ojalá tú lo puedas sugerir, Ray, para que la industria adopte alguna decisión, y MSC, Oceana, o todos los que fueron de alguna manera tocados en este documental, hagan algo similar y también de educación, ¿no? Para demostrarle a los ciudadanos del mundo, a los consumidores de productos de mar, de que la pesca sostenible sí es viable cuando hay responsabilidad, cuando hay criterios científicos, cuando hay estándares bien definidos para lograr esa sostenibilidad, no solo del producto de la pesca principal, sino de todo el ecosistema marino, para poder lograr que el consumidor conozca de estos trabajos importantes como el que tú haces, como el que muchos expertos hacen a nivel mundial. No sé si Alondra tiene alguna pregunta adicional.
No, Inge, todo bien. Creo que me ha quedado clarísimo y cuando discutamos en el programa este tema, tendremos realmente la visión de alguien muy importante y que sabe de lo que está hablando, porque no podemos permitir que se desprestigie a un sector tan importante para la sociedad y que no solo genera alimento, sino también trabajo a muchos.
Así es, así es. Muchas gracias, Alondra. Ray, muchas gracias por tu tiempo, por estas explicaciones. Te enviaremos ahí el link con tiempo del programa para que lo escuches y ojalá nos puedas escuchar. Estamos todas las semanas justamente hablando de estos temas. Mañana vamos a hablar con una experta en tortugas marinas, cómo se trabaja justamente para reducir la pesca incidental de tortugas marinas. Otro ejemplo más justamente del trabajo que se hace entre científicos y la industria pesquera para lograr reducir los impactos negativos al ecosistema. Gracias por tu tiempo y estaremos en contacto.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.